Due to factors that will become obvious, they've requested that I leave their name and age out of this interview. But without further ado, here is an interview with a car-hating soldier currently on the front lines of the Emerald City. Are you worried about like the domestic terrorism label?
Yes, a bit, yeah. Especially because if you can just label anybody you don't like a terrorist, like we're really cooked. But also no, because I'm like very visibly white. Like I feel like the news would have a field day if you deported, someone like me.
All right, yo, thanks so much for making the time.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. With all this stuff going on with Tesla and everything like that, it kind of sent me down like an anti-car activist rabbit hole. Right. I mean, I had a homie or an associate of mine who's a graffiti artist who started doing tags on Waymos. Yeah. And so I was like, holy shit, it's deeper than Tesla. Yeah. There's a whole army of people out here who just don't fuck with cars overall. Yeah. So what can you tell us about that?
I think that we have an over-reliance on cars, and specifically this country, but really the world. And I think that people are really just fed up with kind of having to drive everywhere, kind of having to spend money on gas, especially at the prices it's gotten. And I think that especially Waymos, like the way they've been introduced and the promise of the technology they have is, I mean, people just see through the bullshit, I think.
For sure. So what can you tell us about yourself, like where you grew up and stuff?
Yeah, so I grew up in Orlando and then lived in Dallas for a while. And so you see like everybody has a car to go everywhere. Like there is not a place you can go without a car pretty much. Yeah. And that kind of on top of driving for work kind of just led me to be like, I hate this thing. I want to get out of this car. Mm-hmm. And there is no option is really the main point.
Mm-hmm. What do you hate most about being in the car?
I think the danger, at all times you're like a split second away from being pinned up against a tree, Yeah. And I think on top of that, the like insular nature of being in a car, you're like climate controlled, you got whatever music, you're just kind of in your own world. You kind of feel kind of like God, you can just go 60 miles an hour immediately if you want to. And I think that leads people to make very dangerous decisions.
Yeah, I think it's certainly an antisocial experience too, especially living here in LA. Probably spend 10 to 20 hours a week on the freeway. Yeah. And I remember back in the day growing up in Seattle, I would catch the bus everywhere. Like, I used to live like right downtown, so I'd catch the 14 bus up to the Hill or the 3 or the 4 to the CD. Yep. And it was every day I saw something crazy on the bus. I had like a story to tell. Now it's just like I can tell you about a bunch of podcasts and new songs and shit because I'm on the phone, I'm like researching, trying to occupy this incredibly boring allotment of time that I spend on the road.
Yeah, it's like not a social environment at all. You are just kind of in your own world.
So Orlando, growing up there, what can you tell us about that?
It's a wild place. People think it's just Disney World, but it is not Disney World. It's kind of like it's owned by Disney. Like everybody that has a job there some way links back to the parks. It's like a conglomerate of suburbs. There is no like real downtown area because it just has the highway interchange through it, I-4 and whatnot.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot before. The only walkable part of Orlando is like the Lake Eola Park corridor. But aside from that, you have like Sanford, Winter Garden, all the way down to Kissimmee. It's just this like infinite sprawl of suburbs. Yes. I had my RV breakdown one time on a street called Orange Blossom Trail.
Yes.
Familiar?
Yeah, I grew up on like right off Orange Blossom Trail. That's crazy, yeah. Yeah. That's quite the road to be on.
How would you paint a picture for the outsider of what OBT is like?
Oh shit, man. Anything you can get up to, anything, what's a good word to use?
Any race of prostitute.
Yeah, definitely. Or anything you want to get up to that you shouldn't be getting up to.
So you can find drugs there that people don't even do anymore. Like you can get a cigarette dipped in formaldehyde in 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, and it's all up and down OBT. Like there's a couple spots where you're like, all right, this is kind of normal, but I mean, when it gets dark, it's like you're in it.
It's the Wild West.
Absolutely, the Wild East.
In your experience living in Seattle, would you say OBT is crazier than Aurora?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say so, especially because it's just a bigger road. You know, like Aurora kind of gets cut off at the north and south, where it's just becomes, you know, either Amazon town or like the northern part of Seattle, where it's just like, you know, older families.
Green Lake and Woodland is right there, so there's still some commerce happening that isn't just like super post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
So your journey started in Orlando, and then you made your way to Dallas, which is another car hell city.
Yeah,
There's
it's not
probably
worse.
5 to 10 car hell cities. What comes to mind as the worst car cities for you?
Oh man, probably Houston. Houston is up there, especially because of their like bullshit zoning laws, where you can kind of just put, I mean, not whatever, wherever, but you know, the limits are not what they should be. I'd say Houston, all the Texas big mega cities, because you know, they don't give a shit. They're just like, put cars everywhere. You know, we have infinite land here in Texas. So I'd say Houston, Dallas, and Austin in that order, probably. Well, because you got to factor in San Antonio.
Yeah, you can't. You always have to factor in San Antonio. There's someone watching right now like, yes!
I do get it, though. It's like an unsung hero of Texas, for sure.
It definitely is. So back then, were you like politically involved at all?
Yeah. I've been organizing with unions since for about 5 years now. So I've always kind of been on that end of it, but definitely living in Dallas, and I was driving for work, as I said. Really kind of, I was just like, I feel so like alien to the world. And I don't know if you've ever tried to catch a DART bus, which is like their transit agency, but it's like they come sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I guess the not having an option, and especially having that like, you know, self-proclaimed Texas freedom mindset, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have the freedom to just like walk places. The fuck are we doing?
Right. What was the first union that you got involved with?
Workers United through Starbucks. And then I just kind of did a bunch of external organizing from there, and pretty involved with like SEIU, and I won't say too much, but.
You still work at Starbucks?
Yeah, I still work at Starbucks.
What's your position there?
Lowly barista, you know?
You guys can make good tips now though, right?
Yeah, you know, so they say. I think that's a way of them not paying us a fair wage, just relying on whatever asshole comes in and it's like, here's $3 your way. Now, you know, I can yell at you all I want type thing.
Definitely, dude. I used to work at Starbucks too.
Did you?
But I worked at one on a college campus where everybody paid with their student IDs, so there was no tip option.
Nah,
But I'd
yeah.
have to serve like a bunch of kids during finals week, like 100 kids in a row, no tips.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oof.
So what caused you to make that jump from Dallas to Seattle?
It was really family. It was really like, I don't really have any reason to be here. And definitely this new admin, you know, like debating on whether I want to say this, I'm just going to say it. You know, I'm a trans person, so like access to hormones and safety, you know, like Dallas is the #1 spot for trans women to die, which is like just a crazy statistic.
Why is that?
I think it is a cultural thing, but I think it also is that Dallas is so sprawling and you can kind of get away with crazy, nasty shit like that. And also it's definitely a racial thing, you know, like white trans people die less than, you know, black trans people are.
Just because of homophobia or something?
Yeah. But also, you know, if you are like a white person that wants to do bad shit, you know, you're less likely going to target another white person, maybe because of biases, or maybe because you probably get away with it.
Yeah, there's less like police interest.
Yes. I mean, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was a kid growing up in downtown Seattle, most of the trans people that I knew were black, and a lot of them were sex workers.
Yeah.
And they lived super hard. And they talked about this phenomenon that used to happen where they would have a client, and then after they would finish up with the client, because typically the client would be like cheating on their partner or whatever the fuck, like some old dude.
Of course.
He would have like this post-nut clarity that would in turn turn into something violent, where they'd be like, no one can know that I'm gay or something,
Yeah,
and they would just
right.
have like a furious outburst.
That's a trans experience, you know? People don't want to feel like they're gay, especially if you're a sex worker, you know? You're gonna deal with the lowest of the low.
Who just have like this extreme shame complex kick in.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're planning on going through like a full transition?
Yeah, you know, I'm one of these people that's just like, fuck the binary, you know? So I'm kind of, I like, my main goal is just to scare the shit out of people, you know? Just be incomprehensible, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know, I'm 3 months now on estrogen, and I'm loving it. It was a decision that I didn't make immediately, because I was like, damn, you know, am I really gonna feel right in this? And then I did it, and I was like, yeah, never mind.
What was like the jump off point that made you feel like it's time?
I started getting real buff. I was like, oh, what? Who the fuck is that in the mirror, you know? And it was just from like normal shit, you know, I'd just be like lifting boxes or something.
And you didn't like being buff?
Well, it's just that the body that I had, I was no longer identified as closely with. I was like, whoa, you know, like I don't mind being strong, but I don't want to be like, you know.
You didn't want to look like a douchebag.
Yeah.
So you feel like if you got too buff, fools would be like, fuck this fool.
Bodybuilders? Yeah. I like skinny, scrawny guys.
How about multimillionaires? How about 8 inches and thick? My testimony, I'm nothing but pure, and I ask you if you want to be in the YouTube channel. And you like scrawny guys.
Yeah, well, also, you know, I feel like I date primarily women, so I feel like women would look at me and be like, wow, you're so buff. And
So you feel like if you got too buff, you'd attract more superficial ladies?
I don't know if I don't know if I say that. Maybe, but I think I'd attract more straight ladies.
Yeah. Wait. Oh, I see what you're saying
You're like
now.
looking for a man.
And are you straight? You date the ladies though.
I date the ladies primarily.
Okay,
yeah.
but you have dated some of the homies.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
respect. Okay, and you're thinking like, so you felt like you would feel more comfortable having like a less masculine body, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. You hit it on the head.
Yeah. And so how long does it take for the estrogen to like genuinely take effect in your body?
Yeah, so you know, you start feeling it like, well, depending on the method in which you take it, right? Like if you're taking the pills, it takes a little longer. If you're taking the patches, it takes a little longer. But I've been doing the shots, and bro, I am scared of needles. So it has been an experience. But I'm telling you, week 1, I was like, damn, my skin is smooth. What's going on?
What? I'm trying to get on that shit.
What's that? This is a whole tangent, but you know that like Live Longer dude?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Gary Johnson.
Yes, Gary Johnson. Yeah, he's taking non-feminizing estrogen for this effect.
Damn, he needs to just bite the bullet and just go for it.
Just do it, man. What are you doing?
Bruh, so your skin is getting smoother. Is your voice gonna change?
Probably a little, but again, I'm just trying to scare people. So I would like to look real feminine, and then, you know, somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, and I'm like, what?
So you moved to Seattle, you're taking estrogen, you're setting cars on fire.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm like Fox News' worst nightmare.
That literally is Fox News. Sounds like a Fox News GPT headline.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's the craziest shit you've done to a car?
Oh, the craziest shit I've done. I mean, it's just spray painting Cybertrucks. That's like the extent, personally. I know fools that like have gone further with like, I don't know if you saw the Waymo caught on fire. I know people that are like in that kind of space, but I think that I'm like a deeply suspicious person. So if I don't know that I can get away with it, I'm not gonna do it. You know. So I don't think that that's a bad thing to like maybe light a car on fire too.
Let's back up a little bit. So the anti-car movement, what are the key tenets of the anti-car movement?
I would say choice, definitely. You know, like being able to choose how you want to get around. Also like safety. You know, I think that largely our cities have become just unlivable, you know, depending on which city, you know, there's levels to it, but safety for sure. You know, there's too many people that die on the streets every day just from getting hit by a car. You know, there's no like, they could be just walking to their class, to their job. Like it's not like they're doing crazy shit. So I think that's like the two main things. And then also, I think people just want to be able to not be so insular, you know, and want to have a sense of like, I know the people around me, rather than just being like you said, in your bubble where you listen to the podcast and music or whatever, and not having a story for that day, you know?
So do you envision a world without cars?
We can dream. But you know, I don't think so. I think that cars have a role. You know, I think that there is a reason why people like having cars. I think that what I envision is not having to own one. You know, it's like that having to that is the problem.
So you're talking about taking away the necessity, making it so people have the option to live without a car.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like the most pertinent need for a car, I'm thinking would be semi-trucks transporting agricultural goods into the cities.
Certainly.
Sounds like what you're talking about is major metropolitan areas having enough of a public transportation infrastructure to where you don't need a car to live your life.
Right, yeah. Or, you know, and this isn't just, it could be rural as well. You know, like there is a way to make places and not just like gutters for cars, you know? And even like stuff like the trucking business, you know, we could do this via freight rail. We just don't have a vested interest enough into actually getting that done than we do into selling more tires, selling more 18-wheelers, selling more things of that nature.
You know what's crazy, bro? I'm gonna get a real tinfoil hat. So in the 1960s, between 20 to 30% of people traveled via thumb, hitchhiking.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Oh, shit.
The Ford Motor Company subsidized a program by President J. Edgar Hoover that was a covert operation to stigmatize hitchhikers so they could raise sales for auto manufacturers. They funded the production of the film Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in which a hitchhiker kills a regular group of motorists to get people to fear hitchhikers and to get hitchhikers afraid of the public turning against them so they could create more auto sales. So the death of hitchhiker culture, which was like the ethos of the hippie movement, was directly caused by a CIA psyop that was meant to sell more cars.
Well, great. I got a new talking point. I didn't even know that. That's
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because I ask people what happened to hitchhiking, and they say, oh, the world's just not safe anymore. I think security culture itself, especially if you want to talk about post 9/11, like for airplanes, you know, but for cars, it was the hitchhiker stranger danger that led most people to get their own vehicles.
Damn.
Back in the day, it was super common to hitchhike to work.
Yeah, okay, there you go. I didn't even, and that also tracks in line with them buying out, you know, the streetcar systems of old and just ripping them out, you know?
When you look at public transportation as far as like the most effective systems, what cities come to mind?
Oh, you know, you gotta say like Tokyo, you gotta say like Amsterdam or Rotterdam or things of that. Even some, I mean, really the biggest example I would say is Chinese cities. You know, you got entire metro systems that have just been crafted within like 20 years. And they went from like no high-speed rail grid to like everywhere is connected. And I think that is the shining example because it's new. Like a lot of people have this idea that because we don't have it built at all, that there is no way forward. And
cities with the best public transportation systems also statistically have the highest social trust, you know? And I think part of the anti-hitchhiker CIA Hoover psyop was to reduce social trust, create stranger danger to where you're like, I don't want to ride the bus is full of criminals and homeless people, and I want my own car so I can guarantee safety when I'm going.
Right, yeah. And I think that, you know, the joke is that on New York trains, there's like someone going to Wall Street, there's like a homeless guy, and a day-then barista from Bushwick. And when you have that sense of like, okay, we all have to keep this like a space where we're all going, you feel at least some sort of cohesion rather than just, I don't know who else is in the cars next to me, you know?
That's so true, man. You do feel like this solidarity when you're riding the train in New York, where you're like, we're all have different walks of life, but we're all here right now doing our thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So as far as your activism, you do believe in direct action means?
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Right. And so what are some of those direct action strategies?
There are some ways you can do it that don't directly involve like breaking the law, right? Where you can try to implement congestion pricing, or you can try to implement like, you know, tolls for roads and stuff. But I think that only goes so far. I think that it is kind of like a social thing. So I think some of the direct things that you can do is kind of just be a menace. You know, go out there and walk when you're supposed to walk, you know, get a bunch of people on bikes and overtake the whole lanes and shit. Because it's just like, there was a time where cars didn't own the street. And I think that we need to kind of do things like taking over a street or like taking over a Pike Market, where you just have so much that it is unignorable, you know? I think that there is a role for things like spray painting a Tesla, where you're just like wanting to cause some chaos. But I think without a goal in mind, it's not really direct action. You're just like feeling emboldened because everybody else feels like fuck cars. You know, so I think the direct actions have to be organized with other people.
Right. So what do you think about the whole Tesla boycott going on?
Yeah, I mean, fuck Teslas. You know, like they're not good cars. They're expensive car bombs. I would say that they are a sham. They're just a promise of this electric car. You know, they got into the market first in America, so they have this like leg up, but they're not even the best electric cars out, you know? And it's just because it's this buffoon that is the president now, you know, because he has so much influence, he can kind of control, you know, he did a commercial at the White House, and we won't even let electric vehicles from China come into the country at all.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that people have a real anger and hatred for the guy behind it. And I think that any way that we can get people to like understand this, you know, this promise of this green future with these cars is a sham is a win.
So you're taking things a step further and you're thinking, doesn't matter if it's electric or gas powered.
Yeah.
Still same machine.
Right, because we're not at a point where we have electric cars that are just like zero emissions starting. You know, you have to produce that car and you have to charge that car.
Yeah.
And not only to mention things like tire particulate matter and things of that nature, where no matter how green you get the car, there is still inherent things with a car that is not green. I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with EVs replacing gas-powered vehicles, although I don't think it'll happen within my lifetime. I do think that it's not the golden bullet or silver bullet everybody thinks it's going to be.
So we spoke to our friend Joel earlier, who is the leading figure in the Tesla boycott protests that have now taken the world by storm.
Yeah.
It seems like you feel like it's bigger than Tesla.
Certainly.
But the boycotts have been a good opportunity for your movement to take center stage.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, Tesla is an enemy, but it's not the enemy, you know?
Is the enemy just all cars?
More or less. I would say it's the dominance of cars. I don't know that it's like everybody in a car. Some people just are trying to go to work and there is no other option. I think that the real enemy is building just roads for cars, just highways for cars. And I think that a lot of that is just the public attitude towards having a car.
So you're not walking around fucking up cars?
No, but you know, if you park in the bike lane, if you're parking in the crosswalk, you're liable for those things to come back and bite you in the ass. So
you will fuck up a car?
I will fuck up a car.
But you're not waking up being like, I'm gonna go fuck some cars up, because you do have a job.
Yeah, I gotta eat somehow.
You guys mentioned that you did something recently at Pike Place. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so we organize like a monthly bike ride where for the past couple months, actually, we've just been completely overtaking that intersection there.
Which one?
It's Pike and I think First.
Okay, by the Target.
Yes. And we just kind of, we do that and then we go into the market and just ride all through the market. Basically, we're just trying to be a nuisance. You know, there's a lot of businesses in Pike Market that think they're not going to be able to receive shipments or whatever reason they have stated. And at some point, that just isn't a functional method of running the market. So what we're doing is kind of just showing that this is not a space for cars. You know, it doesn't even make sense for cars to be here.
In Pike Place?
Yeah, in Pike Place, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Yeah, you know, tourists come and they load in, let me get to Pike Place Market, and they're driving right through like what should be just a pedestrianized area.
I know, there's no worse vibe than like right after you hop out of Tenzing Momo or Left Bank Books and you're trying to walk down the cobblestones by the first Starbucks and there's some fucking asshole with his Uber or Waze up, like driving hella fast toward the gum wall. Yeah. You're like, buddy, slow down.
Yeah. You don't own this right
Yeah,
now.
you don't own this. Take that street down there. What's the street down there called?
Alaska Way.
Take Alaska Way. No, there's a street in between Alaska Way that when you take the elevator from the fish market all the way down. Back in the day when the viaduct was there, I used to hide under that little area to smoke weed by the antique store.
Oh yeah. I don't even know what that street is called. I thought it was Alaska, but they've changed that grid so much I could just be lost in translation.
Dude, Pike Place is amazing. I support what you guys are doing if it means Pike Place pedestrian accessibility.
Dude, I hope so.
Back in the day, they had this place at Pike Place. It was called like it was called the Guinness Book of World Records store. And it only lasted for about a year, but everything in there was like the hottest hot sauce, the most sour candy, the stinkiest like stink bomb. Like everything was meant for the extremes.
Right.
So you go there before school and just terrorize the school all day.
Havoc. Oh yeah.
Hot sauce in one pocket, stink bombs in the other. You're fucking challenging fools. People are dumping milk in their mouth in the lunchroom. It's amazing.
Yep.
So going back to my main questions, obviously these shutdowns are meant to disrupt traffic and annoy, business owners and stuff.
Certainly, yeah.
Do you feel any guilt about that?
No, not even a little. Like people are dumb, and I think that business owners want to keep their parking spots more than they want more business because no matter what statistic you look at, foot traffic is going to drive business up over cars in the market.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel bad for doing something that will inevitably be good for the people that are running these businesses.
Yeah, small price to pay.
Right.
We always say, I was talking to Joel and I said, sometimes it feels like the dollar is bigger than God and everything's justifiable under the pursuit of capital. So it's interesting when you hear business owners being like, you are obstructing my business, which is my way to get capital, which is a way for me to survive.
Right.
Thus, I am able to respond with violent means.
Right.
Like when they had the anti-ICE rally take over the freeway in LA.
Yeah.
Almost every comment was like, God, I wish somebody would hit these people because I have to get to work.
But that's the thing. You chose to drive into the city. You know what I mean? So it's like, if that's your only way of getting to work, I get it to some extent, but also you can find somewhere to park and just get to work by other means. And we're not taking it up for hours at a time. So it's like, I don't feel like there is any argument to be had there.
Well, someone could come at you for being ableist.
Yeah.
There's always something.
It is always something.
That's a problem.
Very true. It is a very real problem. But I would challenge you to find somebody who is disabled that is like, yeah, we should keep cars here, actually. I love being hit in my wheelchair by a car going 60 miles an hour. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? I feel like anybody that's claiming ableism is probably just trying to find something to throw at you, especially in that type of scenario.
Well, that's the landscape nowadays, man. That's why it's so hard for people to come together and, have a formidable progressive presence.
Yeah.
Is because everyone's so occupied positioning themselves as being more righteous than the other party.
Holier than thou.
I mean, that's kind of why, in my opinion, that's the story of the Trump victory.
Yeah, that's not a bad takeaway.
Yeah, because people have all these fault lines of division on the left, whereas the conservatives, even if they disagree on major things, they're still a unit.
I always like to say that if you're sowing distrust among, what could be, a progressive front, you should be getting a CIA bag. Like, I don't understand why you guys are doing this for free.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
I wonder if CIA bags were delivered just as a straight up direct deposit or if they're laundered somehow.
Good point. I think it probably depends on how involved you are,
Facts. So let's talk about Waymos a little bit. So as I mentioned, the homie Savvy OTR has been tagging some Waymos. I asked him, hey, is this in protest or anything? He said, nah, those cars are just fucking whack.
Yeah.
So I had somebody from Waymo hit me up about legitimate safety concerns. Do you know anything about Waymo and its potential safety loopholes?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a lot of safety loopholes. I think last November they reported something like having to manually correct Waymos every 3 to 4 minutes or something. It's not a self-driving tech yet, and I think that's one part of it. But I think that there are safety concerns that we can't even address yet. Like, there was a story of somebody getting hit by another car and pushed up underneath a Waymo and getting pinned underneath it because the Waymo was like, we don't see anybody here. We're just going to keep going, which things of that nature are not human error, but it's the room for error that you're going to have in a self-driving car at this point, regardless of the company,
Yeah.
We're just not there yet.
I think that it might be a psyop, or maybe not even a psyop, but Waymos are designed to try to not pay Uber drivers.
Yeah.
That was my first thought. I'm like, oh, they're trying to cut that $8 expense.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it is an $8 expense. They're not getting healthcare. They're not getting anything. They're getting pennies on the dollar. But if you can cut out $8, it makes your bottom line healthier. So.
Do you catch Ubers or anything?
I try not to.
Do you take the bus here?
I did. I took the train here.
That's
and
sick,
I just walked
dude.
it. Yeah.
You're really inspiring me to start taking the bus.
Do it.
No, I feel like fuck it. I'm gonna leave my car at the office.
Yeah, no, and it sucks trying to. Well, I don't know. You might have parking here, but it sucks trying to find parking, going places. It sucks. There's just so many things you don't even realize. But there are times where I'm walking down the freeway and I'm like, damn, this sucks. So I think that you can do it, but I understand people that are like, I don't want to bring my toddler down this road right now.
Yeah, I feel like, I kind of am a little bit blessed growing up in Seattle where you said that you moved, because I grew up in between Capitol Hill, downtown, and I went to mostly schools in the Central District. So I never even had to get a car until you ever heard of a SPODY before?
I don't think so.
It's a Seattle high school slang for outdoor alcohol gatherings. So what will happen is somebody will get a keg, they'll go to a public park, they'll sell cups, or they'll go with a cooler and they'll get cups and people will pour jungle juice and they'll sell the cups for $5.
Yeah.
So cars came into the picture because we had to go far from the city to the wilderness to throw these SPODYs.
Right, yeah.
And so up until then, I had a totally peaceful life with no car.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah.
It was compelled by necessity of another oppressive law.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's because there's no public spaces for people to do that at that age.
Yeah, there should be bars for high schoolers.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I do think that there needs to be places for young people to gather, and what happens there happens there.
Yeah, I guess the closest thing we have to it is like Alki Beach. I'm trying to think, where else do high school kids get into trouble in Seattle? Alki, the parking lot of Carkeek, the parking lot of South Center Mall. Where else? I haven't been a kid in a long time.
Magnuson?
Magnuson's pretty good.
I don't even know what that is.
Magnuson Park is not something you need to know about. It's a small park in Northeast Seattle.
Okay.
Northeast Seattle, in my opinion, does not exist.
I was gonna say that's an area of town I'm never in.
Laurelhurst, Magnuson Park, don't know what's going on. I just know they have like 150 baseball fields.
Oh.
Now, if my dad's watching, you live in Seattle, do you agree that anything past the cut is the North End?
I would say so, but I don't
God.
know that I'm the
Boy.
authority.
All right, well, now I'm an anti-car activist because me and my dad haven't talked in a couple weeks because he says Ballard and the U District aren't the North End. The North End starts at 85th. I was
Okay,
like,
man. All right, we're just drawing arbitrary lines at this point.
yeah, what is this?
Yeah.
But North End, kids from Ballard are like, I'm not from the North End.
Oh,
Total bullshit.
right. Yeah.
Where on the other side, on the South End, everyone's desperate to be from the South End.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got people who live near the Mount Baker train station being like, I'm from the South End, and you can't tell them they're wrong because they live off Rainier.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell them they're wrong.
How many anti-car activists are there?
More than you think, I would say. I don't know that I have a specific number ironed out, but I think that it's like a growing sentiment. You know, people don't want to be trapped to their vehicle. I don't know about activists. I feel like that's kind of a word that's been bastardized, but I think that there are a lot.
Okay, how many fools are down for the cause? More than 10,000?
We're talking countrywide?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sick.
definitely.
Are you guys like mostly anarchists?
I think it varies. I think some people have more of an anarchist slant, and some people are like, I think it varies. I think it varies in ideology a lot. I think the main goal is just to be safe, which is like, I don't know, kind of the most beautiful thing about it.
Would a libertarian be able to get into your fold?
How much do they like kids? Do you know what I mean?
Well, they want to save them a lot.
Yeah.
They want to save them so much they can't stop looking at them.
No. But, you know, if you're walking around as a self-claimed libertarian, I don't know how much you give a shit in general. So
What kind of bike do you ride?
I have like a shitty little Temu e-bike. And
Okay, sick.
I bought it like 4 years ago. It's beat to shit. And some people are really into like the technical aspects. I just like that it gets me from the places, you know?
So you bike, I'm not going to say where you live because I don't want someone to come, I don't want one of these car executives to come assassinate you.
That'd be sick, yeah, to not.
But do you bike from your house to
Hell yeah.
Starbucks?
Hell yeah.
Damn, so you probably got some strong calves.
Something like that.
Are you worried that estrogen is going to fuck that up?
No.
Really?
No, yeah, because the thing about estrogen is you gotta eat. So I just be eating way too much now, which has really changed my life because I'm like, damn, I don't feel like ass all the time.
Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite kind of food?
Oh, man, what's my least favorite kind of food is a better question. But nah, you know, I'm from the South. I really like some fucking collard greens. I love some grits. Really, I love breakfast food. You give me a good like platter of breakfast. That's my shit.
You like turkey bacon?
I do. I don't eat pork. So
Okay, you're Muslim?
no, I just don't eat pork. I was raised by a Muslim stepfather.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Holy shit, is he still around?
He is alive, but he's not around.
He's not the homie though. He is though.
We don't rock with bro, no.
Yeah. I had a stepdad too. He was the Seattle Mariners catcher.
Oh shit, okay.
He was a great player, but we also don't rock with bro.
Yeah.
Do you think vandalism is wrong?
On principle, no. It kind of depends on what you're doing. You know, if you're like running up in the mom and pop breakfast spot and you're like tagging the shit up and it looks bad, it's like there's no argument for it. But I think that the word vandalism is largely just a way to make it seem bad, you know?
Do you feel like a lot of the graffiti writers who came up during COVID when the cops didn't give a shit and they were like painting freeway spots that, you know, you used to go to jail doing, you feel like a lot of those kids have like stolen valor?
I mean, they're still doing it. I think the stolen valor kind of comes from how well you're invested in it. Like if you're just going out there and like doing a little shit tweaker tag and then going back to your house, like I feel like that's stolen valor because you hit like a spot that is hard to get to, and you just kind of didn't even have any integrity with it.
Yeah.
But I think that, I don't know, there's something about standing on the freeway that kind of gives it its own.
You ever read Crime Think before?
I don't think so.
It was like this dope anarchist books that they used to sell back in the day. And it was talking about like, you know, it was sort of like an anarchist cookbook, but it was the idea that like petty crime, stuff like vandalism of corporations is a righteous act.
Yeah.
You feel that way?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say definitely. I think it is one of the only ways that you individually can cause a bottom line dip, you know, by just going out and kind of fucking shit up, for lack of better words.
Yeah, I was talking to Joel about, you know, the idea that, you know, violence itself, like Joel thinks that property damage is violence. And I would argue that it's not.
Violence against who?
The idea is that, you know, you're creating an element of fear, and that through attacking that building, you're psychically attacking the people who preside over it and harming them in some way.
Cry me a river, you know what I mean? Like, if you're in the Amazon building, you know what I mean? If you're in the Tesla building, you know the risk you took by taking that job, you know? And if you start to feel like, oh, I'm afraid of this, I don't like this, go somewhere else. No one's forcing you to be there.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
You ever deal with any heroes? For those who don't know, a hero is a pedestrian who acts as a law enforcement officer in the face of petty crime. Do you ever deal with any heroes in the field who are like, hey, stop?
I don't know. I feel like in Seattle you don't get a lot of that.
Oh man, buddy. I wish you were right.
Really? I haven't personally had to deal with a hero, as it were, but I kind of maybe a little bit more sneaky than just throwing up a sticker on Third and Olive.
Yeah. What are some tips you have out there for people who want to get involved with the anti-car movement but are a little bit nervous?
Start small. Just get yourself like a bike. Just get yourself like walking more, even if it's incremental, and start talking to people. Talk to your neighbors. You know, just get involved. There is definitely somewhere around you that is already doing something.
Did you vote in the election?
Yeah. Are you asking who?
Yeah.
Yeah, I voted for Kamala. I whispered ACAB to myself as I wrote it in, but what are you gonna do, man?
No, I feel you, man. And that's saying something, because I feel like almost no one I knew did vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Including myself. And so but I feel kind of dumb now.
I don't want to say yes.
Because I got tricked into, like, you know, I interviewed Jill Stein and she kind of psyoped me and was like, yo, it's all the same. Nothing's going to change whether or not it's Kamala Harris or Trump. And pretty much immediately everything changed for the worse.
Yeah.
So now I feel like I wish we could go back and like people were able to realize that change takes a lot more time, and that issues like Israel-Palestine aren't going to go away, and you're never going to have a president who is pro-Palestine. It's unfortunate, but it's just true.
And I think that you can bully Kamala into, you know, stop selling arms to Israel, but you're not going to do that with Trump. It's not going to happen. And the odds of it actually happening to Kamala either is like insanely low, but I don't know, man, we wouldn't have fucking sweeping tariffs, so.
Yeah, I think that Trump's support of Israel is going to be his downfall.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he's harvested so much like insane anti-Semitic shit over the course of the past, 8 to 10 years.
Right.
And he was like, there's this cabal of evil liberal communists that are trying to control us.
He's saying everything but Jewish, yeah.
Yeah, and now he's like, no, I love the Jews. The cabal that I was talking about is actually like Jimmy Kimmel and his friends.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
Goalpost moving.
Of course, yeah. And we're not the only people to notice that, you know what I mean? Especially when you're one of these like freaks that actually believes that shit. You're probably like, dude, what do you mean? I thought you were saying the 14 words a minute ago. What happened?
Yeah, did you see, the Nazi Nick Fuentes?
Yeah, of course.
He was hating on Trump hard the other day.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
he was like, this guy tricked us from the very beginning. He's owned by Israel. And I'm like,
Wow.
dude, if that guy's turning on you,
Yeah.
the kids will too.
Oh,
The-
yeah.
The Nazi youth.
The Nazi.
Isn't it crazy that there's people from our generation who are like into neo-Nazi shit?
I wish I could tell you it's crazy, but like, man, we didn't do enough to curb that, I don't think.
It's just weird because it's like we all grew up online at the same time.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that white supremacist shit is actually still in our generation.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to believe, but then you go outside and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And to clarify, he's referring to white supremacists being outside, not going outside and making racial observations.
Yes, that is, yeah. Ooh, about to get canceled today.
You go, yeah. You think it's crazy to be racist, and you go outside and you're like, Jesus, where are all the white people?
In Seattle, they're there.
Seattle, yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about Seattle. I still like it, and I'm happy that you live there, because
I love it.
I get in this headspace, bruh, where I'm always talking about how Seattle sucks now. But the fact that there is people holding down the anti-car movement in Seattle gives me some kind of hope.
Yeah, I won't give up. So truthfully, I can't, because I fled from Florida and Texas, and I'm like, well, sticking it out here, you know.
You want to give any message before we head out of here to the people who may be watching at home thinking about, fuck, I have a car right now. I want to be on the right side of history, but I got to get to work.
Shit, man. Do what you can. Get a bike. Try to find some other way. I'm telling you, the bike is overpowered. Get involved, even if it's not for every day of your trips into work. Do something. Make an incremental change. Free Gaza.
Hell yeah, appreciate you, G.
Hell yeah, man.
Dude, I'm straight up about to take the bus home today.
Dude, hell yeah.
You actually inspired me,
Do
bro.
that shit.
So what's your like plan or strategy to get rid of cars if it would work?
Well, I don't know that you can get rid of cars entirely, but I think that reduction is the plan, you know, reduce as much as possible until, boost methods other than just driving everywhere.
How are you getting your message out? How are people discovering your theory?
Yeah, well, just like organizing around, big bike events or like things of that nature.
So it's not just anti-car. It would also mean if your movement succeeded, there would be a drastic increase of buses and trains.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah. And if not an increase, then like an increase of service, you know, because a lot of what it is like you wait 40 minutes for a bus that might come. You know, it's like we have some good bones. You know, we used to like have cities that function properly, but now it's just like a gutter through your city for cars. So
if you're so anti-car, do you think it's effective to like actually vandalize or attack cars to like bring awareness?
Depending on what you're doing, right? Like if you have a goal in mind, I think that just like vandalizing all cars is going to get you in trouble and nothing done basically. But, if you want to take down a certain company, wink, wink, nod, nod, then, I can't say that it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
We see the price of Teslas start to go down, people not wanting to buy them. I think that's a real win,
Mm-hmm. Apple pie and cars are basically as American as it gets. How can you take on that ethos that if you're anti-car, you're anti-American?
Who gives a shit? I think I think that like your anti-America sentiment has dropped off these days. I mean, maybe with older folks, but I know a lot of younger folks are like, they don't give a shit. Nobody likes this country really. They like the people in it, but.
So yeah, the younger generation, a lot of them aren't even driving. So that gives momentum to your cause.
Oh yeah.
But they do take Ubers and Waymos.
Yeah.
So do you feel like the young generation's open to taking a bus though? Because there's a big difference between getting on a bus or getting in an Uber.
Right. Yeah. I think that the buses will come, as I think people are more willing to get on trains, to be honest with you. I think it feels like more of a set thing, maybe safer, maybe more of an experience or whatever. I think that buses need to become like, we only buy American buses, and a lot of American buses are like not the greatest buses in the world. So I think that we need to have like a real shift in the type of buses that we run and like like making it feel like you're not a second-class citizen because you're on a bus. And I don't know if the younger generation is open to it now, but I think that it's a step in the right direction to be not as willing to like, invest all your money in whatever car. So yeah, I think it's a stepping stone.
So you said we're never going to get rid of cars. So it's like an admission that it's almost like your goal isn't so much to get rid of cars, it's to change the zeitgeist in the Overton window for people to be more embracing of mass transit.
Yeah.
And your younger generation is primed to be swayed in another direction because a lot of them don't even drive.
Yeah, I would say so.
So it's almost like defund police was never really about defunding the police. It was just to create awareness that police, in general, their budgets are so massive as a part of a city's budget.
Oh yeah.
So it's almost like you're doing the same thing. You're not, even though you're anti-car, you're not at the same time. You're just more pro everything else.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I used to love driving a car. Like, I get why people like driving a car. I just think that nobody benefits from having to drive a car.
Yeah, like it's part of the American dream.
Right.
You have to have a house, you have to have a car,
Yeah.
or else you're not living the full dream.
Yeah, you're like a halfway point, you know. And it's like any car, you know. It's like if you have a Camry, it's like a class thing too, you know. Like you're still looked down upon.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and it's like a lot of other things where it's like a status.
Or if you drive a Tesla, you support Nazis.
Well, maybe a Cybertruck. I feel like there's no excuse there, but.
Well, no, Cybertruck, the reason you buy that is because you want everyone to know how rich you are and you have a small penis.
Yeah, but they're not that expensive. You know what I mean? Like.
80,000 is a lot of money.
Well, fair point. But like, as far as an expensive, nice car, you
But
know,
no, it's interesting. I feel like you're taking a provocative stance in order to create awareness for a better future.
Yeah, but I think we've got too caught up in the weeds on awareness. I think we gotta start doing shit because.
What does that mean?
Well, you know. You got to start making it the driver's problem. You know, you got to start really de-incentivizing drivers.
How do you do that?
Well, there's things that are like legal methods, like congestion pricing or like paying to drive on certain roads. Or, you know, some people have gone out and spray painted on some Cybertrucks. And I don't know, anything to kind of bully people into not wanting to, you know, take that thing everywhere. I also think inside inner cities, we need to really kind of take back over the streets. You know, like there was a point in time where streets were made for everyone to be on, you know, people, bikes, you know, the grand streetcar era. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to that. But I think that drivers have become too emboldened and feel like the road is theirs.
We're having a housing shortage, you're right. So we need to create more density and more
1000%.
walkable cities,
1000%.
which means the removal of cars.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, we need density like yesterday. So it's never going to happen by just everybody gets their like individual parking spot and, you know, drives into the inner city every day. You're just going to build the endless suburb, like Dallas or even LA, you know, just forever expansion.
That's why, Austin and Texas, they're saying they're better policies for home building. It's because they have so much space, whereas San Francisco, there's no space.
Yeah.
It's not like San Francisco and their policies are bad for housing. There's literally no space.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think cars and ability to, I mean, we're a frontier nation, so you're going up against some serious American identity.
Yeah.
And it's maybe being provocative is the way to like pierce that bubble.
Could be, definitely. I think so. I also think that you kind of got to be like I feel like we've got again lost in the weeds of just like making people aware. You know what I mean? Because it's like we're all aware of how fucked up shit is, but we're all looking at each other like.
Awareness is the first step to making change, but we've been on that step for too long, is what you're saying.
Far too long, since before I was born, to be honest with you. But